Okay, welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us for this session on MProject for MindManager. My name's Nigel Goult from Olympic Limited. Some of you may be aware of who I am. For those of you that don't, I've been around MindManager since 2001, so just approaching 25 years, and run a company that developed add-ins and solutions for MindManager. And today I'm going to be joined by Nick Duffill, who I'm sure many people have already heard of, from Harport Consulting. Nick's probably been in the game probably over 30 years now, I would imagine. Some of you will know that he's the developer behind some really great solutions for MindManager, including Results Manager, Power Markers, Gantt Pro, and more recently the App Studio platform, which is what we're going to be looking at a little bit today because that's what MProject runs on. So while we're just waiting to see, I've got a few more people to let in on this, so just do this. Okay, so the webinar today is going to be roughly about 45 minutes. It'll consist of a 30-minute presentation by Nick, followed up by a quick 10-minute Q&A for any questions. The webinar is being recorded and will be available for a replay at a later time. We hope to get that recording to you within about 48 hours after the session ends. We've disabled the videos on the WebEx Meet because obviously we want to maximize the bandwidth during the session. With regards to the Q&A, if you do have any questions, please submit them in the chat feature, which is located in the bottom right of the screen, hopefully. So with that all done, I'm going to hand over to Nick and let him get on with today's presentation.
Thank you very much, Nigel. Thank you for the intro, and thank you for the opportunity to present this. I'm going to aim to talk for not more than half an hour. I mean, I could talk for about 8 hours, but I won't do that. What we're going to do is do everything live. So if you're watching the recording, then this is a recording of a live thing, but I'm going to do what everyone enjoys doing, which is use software and do everything live. So we can expect some technical issues. There's always things that pop up during live demos, real-time demos. But I'm going to first give you an outline of MindManager apps for people who haven't seen MindManager apps before, but I'll keep that short. And then we're going to look at a new app called MProject Framework. MProject is just a little name to relate this to project management in MindManager. And framework is because this app is really it's just a structure for you to use, but I'll explain how and why as we go through. So let's crack on with this. So it's not about MindManager's task management or managing projects in MindManager using MindManager features, and it's not about project management methods or methodologies. There is plenty of information about both of those, and I'll show you where in this app we made a little catalogue of all those resources for you, so you can quickly find stuff. But it's about closing the gap between what is a generic product, MindManager as a general purpose tool, and your specific business processes. So everyone is using MindManager, if they're using it professionally, within a business process. And what MindManager apps can do is bridge that gap. So MindManager migrates from being a general purpose tool for doing brainstorming and problem solving, things like that, to something that is refocused on a particular business process and becomes a platform and a dashboard effectively for using a business process. And this particular one, the MProject Framework, is about continuous learning and continuous improvement. So let's start quickly with what are MindManager apps for those who haven't seen those before. A MindManager app is a small extension to MindManager that is easy to it's quick to create and quick to deploy. So MindManager apps have, by design, they have constraints and limitations. And the trade-off for that is making them really fast to create and flexible to create. And they're mostly used to interface MindManager to a business process. They can also be used for extending MindManager's features. So I have one app installed on my copy of MindManager here, which is an app called Power Bookmarks, and I'm using that for the presentation. So this is a small extension for MindManager that lets you save snapshots of maps and just click through them in order as a presentation, which is what I'm doing here. You can find that Power Bookmarks app on Nigel's Olympic website or on the MindManager website. And all that stuff runs on an extension called App Studio. App Studio is an add-in for MindManager. If you've got MindManager 24, it's already installed. If you've got MindManager 20, 21, 22, or 23, you can get it as an extension from Nigel's website, from the Olympic website. And this add-in creates the runtime for MindManager apps, which doesn't cost anything. You don't need a license, but it is also the development environment for apps. So you can use it to create apps. And I'll show you that during the demonstration. We'll switch that functionality on, and you can see what you can do with apps. But you do need a license to develop apps. You don't need a license to use them. You need one to develop them. Then the other concept we're introducing here is a minimum viable process. Now, if you've been around software development, you've probably heard of MVP, minimum viable product, which is an agile concept where you create something that works just well enough to clarify where you want to go next. And if we apply this to processes, we could have a minimum viable process which works just well enough to find out what you need to do with it next. So a minimum viable process for project management might be just your essential checkpoints, links to business processes, decisions, and milestones. And if that's all you write down about your project process, then that is a minimum viable process. So that's just a few concepts before we actually move on to the MProject demo. What I'm going to do is I'm going to install the app so you can see how that part works. And then we're going to go through a presentation map that is actually part of the app. So if you get the MProject Framework app, you also get with it a presentation that you can rework and maybe go through with your colleagues if you want to show them what MProject is. And we'll have a walk through the features, and then we'll have a look at what you can do with it going further beyond just populating it. The way that apps are distributed is with what's called an app sharing map. When you open an app sharing map, MindManager recognizes that, and it offers to add this app to MindManager. So apps are shared in MindManager maps. You don't need installer privileges or admin privileges to use them. Just open a MindManager map, and if it's been properly formatted and signed by the developer, it comes up with this little pop-up saying, do you want to add it to MindManager? And if you've already got it, then it'll offer to update. If you haven't got it, it offers to add it. So I'm selecting add and clicking OK. The first thing you get is a little README document, which is a bit of orientation, how to get started, warranty, license agreement, all the normal stuff that you would find with a software installation. If you click OK on that, then it goes ahead and adds the app to MindManager. So all you need to install an app is App Studio, if you've either got that already or you get the add-in, and then you need a copy of the MProject Framework App Sharing Map, which Nigel is going to distribute afterwards, after the meeting. So it lists all the files that it's added and says update finished, and we click OK. And we now have a new tab in MindManager. We're here with the tabs we had before, normal MindManager tabs. And what's happened is a new tab has appeared in MindManager. And this is a tab with new buttons just for our MProject Framework app. So the app has added new features and new capabilities to MindManager, and it's put those in a tab. And the concept is that you have all the things that you need for a particular business process at one click away in a tab. So we have buttons for opening stuff, buttons for doing different actions, but they're all related to this project management business process, and they're only one click away. Now, when it first installs, it opens the help map. It's got a help map built into it, and when you first install it, you get the author help map automatically. I'm going to shut that for the moment because we're going to come back to that, and we can have a look at the app itself. We don't need the app sharing map anymore either, so we're done with that. So looking at our MProject framework tab, we've got a number of different groups, and these groups have buttons in them. And what MProject framework is an app for both working on your projects and for having the project process available to you. So that our first map is a project dashboard, and in this map you would have links to your working projects. There might be links to MindManager maps, there might be links to projects on another system, but we're using MindManager, a MindManager map, as a dashboard to help you keep track of the stuff that you're working on. So that's the first map in the MProject framework app. And then the next group is called the knowledge base, and all the things in the knowledge base describe your project management process and information and data behind that as well. And it's broken up into 5 stages plus a reference, and the technical reference material applies across the whole thing, so it's not specific to a stage. But the first stage in the MProject framework is to decide whether MindManager is the right tool for your project. So if you have this minimum process set up, before you start using MindManager on a project, there should be some kind of checkpoint that says this is the right place to be working, this is the right tool to be using, because MindManager is appropriate for some types of project, but not every possible type of project. And especially in your organization, you may need to make the case for using MindManager for your project, and make that a transparent decision. So what you get in the framework app is you get a number of empty maps, blank maps like this one, just a central topic, no content. But on the reverse of this map, if we click the flip button has lit up saying there's a double-sided map on the other side of this. We click that. On the back of each of these maps, there's some guidance about what you need to think about for this map, and I'll explain a bit more about why you're using this double-sided approach instead of templates, and come back to that. So in brief, all the stages of your knowledge base, your project management process, are each map is an empty map and then a kind of guidance or coaching map on the back of it to help you think about what needs to be in that. The next group is templates, and these are materials that you use repeatedly. So we have a button for creating a new project map, and again, this is an empty map, but it's got a coaching map on the back explaining how this would work. And we've also got a button for adding a map part, and the map part we've got here is the project review map part. So this is just some suggestions for how you might want to structure a project review, but of course you could edit your own. And in these buttons, if you click the lower part, you can either add new from template, or you can edit the template. So you can edit the template map direct from a button in the MProject framework tab, and the same for the map part. So you can edit the map part direct from the menu here. And then at the end we have 2 help groups, and this is split in 2 because there's a user and an author. If you get the MProject framework app and start to develop it, you're the author, so you're creating materials, but you may be creating materials for other people to use. And one of the one of the maps they have there is a user help map, and this would be to help other project managers to get on board with your project management process, to understand the app and understand how to use it. And that you would populate this user help map if you were using MProject to create a resource for other people to use. So I think everyone will start individually, but some people may want to write up how they're using MindManager for project management and share that by creating an app to give to other MindManager users. And in that case, you would give them a user help map. And again, there's a coaching map on the back, which explains some of the ideas, the overview, the goals of what this map is for, and some ideas of content, so you get an idea of content. Now, one of the reasons it's set up this way is the first versions of this MProject app. I did a demo and I populated that with a hypothetical project management process so that people could see what might actually be in there. And what was happening was people were much more interested in the hypothetical process than they were in the framework, in the structure of it. So what I've done now is make these maps empty maps, but with a coaching map on the back of them. And then the last section is the author help. So this is help. This is the map we very first saw when we installed the app, and this is help for the author, the person who is going to create their MProject app, is going to document their project management process, and possibly potentially turn it into an app in the future. But you don't have to go as far as that. I'll come back to that later. But all of this documentation is the project management process itself, and the user help and the author help is all in MindManager Maps. It's not in a read-only location. It's in a location and a place where you can modify this. So you should regard the help documentation as a starting point for you to annotate, for you to add your questions, to do all the things that you would normally do in a MindManager map, all the thinking out loud and writing down ideas and shortcuts and things you discovered as part of the MindManager map. So instead of having a read-only document like a PDF that you just read somewhere else, it is actually all happening inside MindManager, and that's an important part of the sort of principles of this MProject app. Also, in the author help section, have a few more bits of information. We have a presentation, which we'll come back to, read me first, and some information about the app and where the app is. Importantly, there's a button there, contacts and support, and what that button does is it navigates to a section in this author help map where we're listing all the available information to support you. So if you've got a question about technical support, question about project management in MindManager, if you want to get a developer license key, all these things are listed here with links in the notes. So this might be your first place to have a look, especially if you've got questions. Go to the author help and click on contacts and support. And of course, because this is a MindManager map, you can add to this. So if you've got other resources, preferred resources, you can add them to this map. So let's jump back to the MProject presentation, because this map is embedded in MProject framework, and you have a copy of this as part of the app. So I'm just going to go through this. We've seen some of it to start with, but I'll now describe a bit more detail about what this app is and where it's aimed at. It's aimed at, well, first it's MindManager for Windows, because App Studio is only available for MindManager for Windows, and it's aimed at any organization who are using MindManager with project work. And MindManager sits on the spectrum of project scales. It's probably working around the no project management method, informal or just small projects. That's probably where we find most MindManager use around projects. Using MindManager within larger projects, is probably less common. You might use it for a particular part of a larger project. The other way that this app could be used would be if you had a project management method that you wanted to share with clients. So if as a consultant you have a project management method, you could capture the basics of that in an app and use that, share that with clients. Talk a little bit about projects, about why we're taking this approach. Projects are all unique. If there weren't projects, there'd be procedures. So every project is different, and every project management process is different. Now that might be less easy to believe, but the project management process that you use is a function of both the method that you have, whether that's Prince2 or PMBOK or whatever it might be, and the environment that it's sitting in and your business environment. And those things combine to make a unique set of requirements and constraints. And projects are complicated and complex. So complicated means a lot of detail, large scale, and quite a lot of data. Complex means there are things happening in there that you can't control, and that is what causes unexpected change in projects. So projects sit in a complex environment, and that means that you can have the best plan in the world and it fails on day 2 of the project. So plans are good for complicated projects, but they always fall apart when you've got a really complex environment. And Mike Tyson, the boxer, has a nice phrase. He says, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. So it's not uncommon for your project that you've spent so long planning to punch you in the face on day 1. So we need to find a different way of working with projects. Complex projects, complex environments need flexibility, and you need to be able to do trial and error, and you need to learn all the time to understand, try and get an understanding of what is happening in the system that controls your project. And I've got a few references there from other people who've written a lot about this. The key thing is that it's the people who are responsible for a project, not the process, not the project management process. And the people working in projects have to meet constraints, of course, but they also need the flexibility to test ideas and to learn and to adapt when things don't go as planned, and they never go as planned. So that's the reason that MProject is set out as it is, as a learning environment, as a continuous improvement environment, so that it can adapt to complex projects in complex environments. So the goals that we have with this app are surviving in complex environments, learning by doing rather than learning by reading. So you don't read the theory, we actually integrate the process and the work. There's the work in the projects group, there's the process in the knowledge base. They're together in the same place, and they're flexible, they're adaptable. So we can use that to continually improve your project outcomes by continually amending your process, updating your process. And the last way that this last of the goals is to protect and share expertise. So if you've got people who have got a lot of experience in project management, this will be one way to capture that knowledge. Instead of project postmortems and debriefs, you actually work in creating an app that other people can use, creating a process that other people can actually use rather than just write down and forget about. So looking at what MProject is and where it sits, the app sits between your project management features in MindManager, things like task management and Gantt chart and scheduling, those things, and ultimately business performance improvement. So what we're trying to do is join MindManager's capabilities with that by interpreting the MindManager as a learning platform, not just a task management tool, but as a space to think and learn and communicate. And then on top of that, we build a project management process, but it can be a simple one. And then we make sure that that project management process is properly integrated into the rest of the business process around it. So there's lots of other constraints coming here, and that's an important part of describing the process. So we've got that, and we've got an integrated knowledge base and a workspace for learning by doing. We covered those points. We briefly mentioned some of the features of MProject, one of which was the double-sided maps, the idea that that we have working materials on the front of the map and reasoning and guidance and coaching information on the back of it. So you don't try and blend all of that into a single map. You have a map that you actually do your work in, and then you have a space where you can be guided and coached and think about what ifs and maybes and ideas on the back. Now, the reason we're using the coaching maps rather than templates is that templates are quite restrictive. The template is a framework, it's a structure already, and it kind of shapes your thinking straight away. Whereas if you have an empty map and lots of suggestions, then you can choose what's in there. And it's often quicker to get just 3 or 4 important points into a blank map than it is to fill out the whole of a template map. The other thing is mentioned before, we're integrating the knowledge base at the point of use. And all of this material, you can develop it further. So the MProject framework gives you a basic framework of maps and buttons in a ribbon, but you can go on and develop that further. So I'm going to do that next. We'll come back to the implementation roadmap. What I want to do in the next couple of minutes is show you, you've seen how to install MProject. You've seen that clicking buttons give you some empty maps and some guidance. What if this is not what you need? And what if this structure needs to be different? What you can do is with a developer key for App Studio, you can do anything you like with this app. And what I'm going to do is, let me just copy this key. In the advanced menu under MindManager Apps, hooray. As we were, when you put a license key in for App Studio, what it does is it gives you another tab. So it reloads the apps. It opens a help file, which is all the instructions for the developer guide, which we don't need to be looking at right now. But it gives you another tab. And we already have an MProject framework installed. We now, with a license key entered for developer license key, we have App Studio active now, and we can do development on apps. So the first thing to do is to take control of the app that we just added, the MProject framework app, and convert that into something that is under our control that we can develop. So if I do that conversion, what that means is that instead of being an app that was installed and can be removed again, we've now got MProject framework as an app that can be edited, and we can now edit the configuration. So we're right into the innards of how apps work now. And the way that apps work is that they're all defined in a MindManager map. So the App Studio system lets you define an app for MindManager all within MindManager. You don't need any other software tools. So if I open this section here, this section of the configuration map, and we have a look at the MProject framework tab, you can see we've got projects button, we've got a projects group, a knowledge base group, templates group. This level of topic are all the groups in the tab, and under that we have the buttons in the group. So here are the buttons for new project and project review, which we see in the ribbon tab here. And this configuration map has some stuff in there that if you have a license key for App Studio, you can enable. So all you need to do is switch off things that are marked as no export. They've got this no entry sign. If I take that icon off there, remove that icon, and then in the App Studio tab, there's a button to rebuild your app from this map, from this configuration map. If I rebuild that configuration, what it does is it reads this configuration map and rebuilds and recompiles the tab, and then reloads that tab and says it's okay. So in the MProject Framework tab, we now have a new button that wasn't there 20 seconds ago. So this guys, it gives you an idea of how quick it is to create apps. It's very interactive. You can make small changes and rebuild your app all the time, and that's the best way to find out how it works. So we now have a new button, and click on that button, and that creates a new template map, a different type of template to the one that the empty one that we saw just now. So if you have a project, if you have an App Studio developer license key, you can start flexing and modifying your copy of the MProject app, and you can add groups, add buttons, change the way buttons work, link to different maps, put different content in there, put map parts in there, and you can even add new functions with a little bit of programming. So that's the that was a little bit, just a snapshot of what it takes to edit apps, to modify apps. And what I'm going to do now is rejoin the presentation and just talk, nearly out of time. Just going to talk a little bit to wrap up about the process for using this MProject Framework app. So the first thing you need is MindManager for Windows. I didn't list that, but you then need App Studio. If you've got MindManager 24, you're all set. If you've got MindManager 21 to 23, you can get App Studio from the Olympic website. And I think Nigel will put a link for that in the follow-up email. And then get a copy of the MProject Framework app and add that. And so again, Nigel will give you a link for that in the follow-up email, where you can download that app. It's a MindManager map. You open that map and it gets added to MindManager. And then the next bit is capturing your minimum viable process. And what you don't need to do is start creating something big and complicated. You can start with just 4 or 5 checkpoints, or a little checklist for each of the stages in your project management knowledge base. You don't need to write a fully fledged complex process. You just need enough to get started, because what you want to do is get into a continuous improvement loop. So you start by creating your minimum viable process, just enough to get started, and then you modify it, you improve it as you work on projects. So all the changes come out of experience with projects and realizing that that when you went through a continuous improvement process, there was something that you could have done differently or done better, and you can modify your project management process. And then if you want to go on beyond that, you can get an app license, an App Studio developer key, and either redevelop or create an app that can be shared with colleagues. And there are 2 ways to do that. You could either get the App Studio license yourself, get that key and do it in MindManager yourself, or you could commission an independent app developer to do that for you. Either would work. You could find a developer and say, here's the stuff we've got, here's our process, please build it into an app for us. So to wrap up then, the MProject framework helps you to get a minimum viable process and get it into an improvement loop. And you can then develop that further if you need to. So you could move towards a project management framework or project management process that you share with colleagues and share inside your organization. And just to say at the end that the same principle could be applied to any knowledge-based process. I think the structure of the of the app with working materials and knowledge base, templated resources and help is a model that could be used in lots of different business processes, but we've just applied it to project management processes at this point. And that's me.
Okay, nice one, Nick. It's quite a lot of information.
Yeah, nearly there.
Quite a lot of information there to take in. I don't know if we've got an issue with the chat system on WebEx, but I haven't seen any questions come in. I'm sure there probably are some, but maybe there's an issue that they're not coming through. I'd probably just say reiterate really which versions of MindManager this is available for.
Okay, yep. If you have MindManager 24, then you can use apps straight away because App Studio is integrated in 24. If you have MindManager 21, 22, or 23, sorry, 20, 21, 22, or 23, you can get an add-in that runs apps. So you need the App Studio add-in from the Olympic website. And that's an add-in that you install once, and then you can add apps. You can add and develop apps on those MindManager platforms as well. But all of that is MindManager for Windows. So not MindManager for Mac or MindManager for Web, only for MindManager Windows.
Okay, brilliant. And I guess another question would probably have been with regards to MProject as an app, is there any cost associated with that?
No.
That was a quick answer.
Yep. Would you like there to be a cost? We can make it a cost. No, it's most of the work will be done by the user in thinking through their project management process. If you want to create custom features or do something special with your app, then you would need a App Studio license key, developer license key, which does have a cost, and there are different grades of license that you can buy. And if anybody would like help with their project, we're very happy to help with that, either help with designing the project management process, help with designing MindManager features or the apps, or adding special functions to MindManager if you want special functions to process project management data, then all of that is available as a service from both myself or Olympic, or there's a number of other people who are doing that stuff as well. But the basic framework app, there is no cost for that.
So, not seeing anything else coming in at the moment. Obviously, we will be in the next steps, which I'll go through now. We will be sending out a follow-up email, and inside of that email, there'll be the ability to download the MProject app so that you can actually install that and start having a play with it in real time for yourselves. And there'll also be the supporting information around things like the version of App Studio you need if you haven't got MindManager 24 and that kind of thing. We'll also include links to any further information on MProject and App Studio or MindManager apps if you're using MindManager 24. We'll also include Nick and my contact details for any questions or any requests or feedback or anything like that. So if you've got anything, you'll have a way of getting hold of either Nick or myself. And we also said that when we ran this webinar, we were going to, for all of the live attendees, we were going to give away an App Studio personal developer license. So what Nick and I will do is we will take the attendee list for the live event, we'll pop that in a spreadsheet, and we'll generate a random number. And whoever that number lands on, then we will also be sending you a personal developer license for App Studio free of charge, and we will release the details of who wins that in that email as well. So if you want any further information in the meantime, you can visit the Olympic website. The URL's on the map below, and also we have recorded this, so I hope to have this ready to share probably at the latest by Friday, and the details of that will also be in that follow-up email when that's sent. So other than that, I think there's nothing, unless there's anything else from you, Nick. Hello, Nick.
Sorry, I saw something whiz past the screen that somebody had raised their hand. I don't know whether you can see that on your console there. If not, then please feel free to email us with questions.
Apologise for that. As I said, if you have got any questions in that, then please either email myself or Nick directly from the contact details in that email when you receive it, and we'll do our best to hook up directly and answer anything that you may have.
Yep.
So, okay, I think that's it then for today. As I say, we'll get that information to you hopefully within the next 48 hours. We hope you enjoyed it. There was an awful lot of you on this webinar, which was very pleasing to see, and I'm very grateful, and so is Nick, for you putting up your time to look through the MProject development. And hopefully we look forward to welcoming you on another webinar around this subject very shortly.
That's great. Thank you very much. Thank you from me, and thank you to everyone who attended, and thank you for the opportunity, Nigel.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, thanks very much, everybody.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.